We'll call this one the hiding place, and this will probably be a little different, which is fine. But it's just interesting to me how things happen. But we got to cover a few things before we get there. How many of you are familiar with Elijah and Elisha? Well, that's pretty good. We probably don't even need to talk. We can just go eat. But Elijah is interesting because he appears with Jesus at the Transfiguration. He's representative of, when you talk about the law and the prophets, when the Israelites would talk about the scriptures, he's representative of the prophets portion of that. You know, Moses is representative of the law, and so he plays an important part. The other thing is he just gets whisked up into heaven with a whirlwind. And so that's another interesting part about his life. And we're going to have fun, I think, diving into this. But it starts off a little more inauspicious. So we'll take a look at the characters that we're going to get familiar with over the next several weeks. And they're an interesting lot. First, we have King Ahab. King Ahab was the 7th king of the northern tribe of Israel, and he reigned at the same time that Jehoshaphat was reigning in Judah, and all that history is just interesting, and we'll get into some of that as we go. But King Ahab, I'm going to read a little bit about him in 1 Kings chapter 16, when we see him, and I'll just give you a little bit of background here. I don't have it up on the board, but it's just a few verses. It says this in 1 Kings 16, verses number 29. In the 38th year of Asa, king of Judah, Ahab, son of Omri, became king of Israel, and he reigned in Samaria over Israel 22 years. Ahab, son of Omri, did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any of those before him. If you're going to do something, all right? He not only considered it trivial to commit the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, but he also married Jezebel, daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, and began to serve Baal and worship him. So Jezebel, who we'll meet in a second too, she's something else. He set up an altar for Baal. We call it Baal. It's really Baal, but I feel kind of dumb saying that, so I'm just going to go with Baal. In the temple of Baal that he built in Samaria, Ahab also made an Asherah pole and did more to arouse the anger of the Lord, the God of Israel, than did all the kings of Israel before him. If in Ahab's time, Hiel of Bethel rebuilt Jericho, he laid its foundations at the cost of his firstborn son Abiram, and he set up its gates at the cost of his youngest son Segub, in accordance with the word of the Lord spoken by Joshua, son of Nun. So Ahab implements the worship of Baal in land. He sets up an Asherah pole, which nobody's exactly sure what this is, but they believe it was a shrine set up to the old gods, the traditional gods of the land of Ur before Abraham, as Abraham traveled. You see things like when Rachel stills, what's her dad's name? Laban, thank you. When I knew that, I was just seeing if you would. And stills his idols, right? And they think that was probably to Asherah, who was the goddess of fertility. And so you can imagine some of the things that happen around the Asherah pole. Was this thing that was set up in worship of this goddess of fertility, and also the worship of Baal, and all kinds of crazy stuff. And we'll get to know him a little bit better as we go. But he's the king in this scenario where Elijah is going to be doing his work. And then you have Jezebel. We actually had a greyhound named Jezebel. And she was actually a nice dog. Just would not worship God for anything, though. She was just stubborn about that. But she just passed away, actually, when I went to England. Something happened to her. I don't know exactly what, but, I think I might know the culprit. Anyhow, so Jezebel was the queen, and obviously you read that when we read Ahab married her, and she's the one that brought Baal worship to the land, and man, she's something else, and we'll get to know her better too, but an amazing woman, put it that way. Then you have Elijah, who we'll talk about a little bit, and then we'll get into Elisha a little bit later, who actually takes the mantle of Elijah and actually performs, he wants a double portion, and God performs exactly double the miracles through his life as he did through Elijah's life. So it's just a bunch of interesting things happen here. These are amazing stories, and I think we'll have a great time trying to apply these to our lives here in Bend, Oregon in 2025. So with that being said, we'll get started. First thing we see right off the bat is truth to power. God has Elijah go and just go right to the king and tell the king something not easy to say. And by the way, it's not easy to speak truth to power. It's not easy. Matter of fact, a lot of people have done it and it's cost them their lives. It can be very inspiring when those things happen, and that's on any level. That's on any level. Anytime there's a power dynamic and you go in and you tell the truth about something that needs to be said, it can be scary. Let alone somebody that can just say off with his head. You know? And that's where we open with Elijah. And I love it as we get on into into his life. He has this one scene, I think it's in 2 Kings chapter 1. I don't want to jump the gun, but it's just so good. And somebody comes in and warns the new king that he's not going to live very long. And the king's not in, and so the king comes back and says, who said what? And they said, this guy came in and said this, and he said, what was he dressed like? He said he was dressed like in his camel's thing, and he's like, oh yeah, it was Elijah. And it's just, he was that guy, you know. He just kind of, and it's interesting to me that Jesus, when he's talking about Elijah being the forerunner, he says that John the Baptist was that, and John the Baptist had the exact same reputation. Dressed the same way, kind of acted the same way. So it's just a lot of interesting things. But this is the scene that we see, and this isn't easy. And I don't have a lot of experience with this. I have been in a situation where we started a church, and we started it kind of one way, and we knew we wanted it. God was just, as he does, we're always on a growth arc, right? There's nothing, I don't think there's anything worse than somebody who goes to Bible college, they have all their doctrine and everything just lined up and in a box and neat and that's it. They never change. To me, that's just something would be wrong with our kids if they did that, right? Something would be wrong, and I think that's the same way with our spiritual life. It's a growth arc. We're always learning. We're always gaining knowledge. We're always gaining experience. We're always, and I don't know about you, but my experience has been, there have been things I have been adamant about that I knew were correct, that now I'm like, I was not even close. You know, the attitude was so bad or whatever, and you grow because you have a limited experience, and then it gets bigger and bigger, and hopefully in 10 more years, my experience is way more deep and wide than it is now, and you too. And so, all that said, to say the church was changing a bit, and we had to make some changes, and man, to go in there and say, here's what I think should happen, and I'm not a very confrontational person. Matter of fact, I don't like it at all. Some of you are experts, but I don't have that gene. Some of you, when I see you coming, I'm like, here it comes. This is a spiritual gift of annoyance. But anyway, I'm not going to name any names. But no, I'm kidding. I appreciate that, and people that can do that, and that when something needs to be said, they say it. I hem-haw around and try to go around my elbow to scratch my nose if I'm, or whatever, and try to soften it as much as I can because I don't like that. But sometimes when you have to do that, it can be difficult, especially if there's a power dynamic. especially if there's a power, if it could cost you something. You know, when you're going in and you're saying, I think this is the direction the church needs to go, and they're saying, well, good, we'll hire somebody else. Those things are scary. There's sacrifice. It's hard. It's not easy. You know, I think it's necessary a lot of times, but it's not easy. And that's where we find Elijah just popping on the scene here. It says this, now Elijah the Tishbite from Tishbe in Gilead said to Ahab, as the Lord, the God of Israel lives, whom I serve, there will be neither dew nor rain in the next few years except at my word. That's bold. And I don't know if the king's like, oh yeah, okay, sure guy, you're going to this is not going to rain until you say it's okay. Well, it turns out that's exactly what's going to happen. But he goes right into the king, the guy that could end him, and he realizes through his calling what God has created him for and his purpose, that his life is going to be in contention with these powers that be until he's no more. That's his life, right? His calling. Now, think about what your calling is. Think about your calling in your life. You know, what is it? Whatever it is, you're uniquely suited for it. You're uniquely suited for it. So many teachers, construction workers, engineers, guys that happen to be in the ministry here, or salesmen, dreamers, thinkers, artists, all of that. Whatever your calling is, you're uniquely suited for that calling. That's how God created you, and hopefully gave you the ability. And sometimes our ability and our passions don't quite mix up, but we still have that ability, and you're uniquely called to be you. By the way, great Sunday school class we had. Amazing Sunday school class we just had with Josh, and he said as much to us. He said as much that part of what drew him to an authentic Christ was us just being us. Isn't that cool? Yeah, to me that was one of the single most encouraging things I've ever heard as a person. Is that just me being me and being nice and operating within my gifts and my talents and my passions and being able to do that can have a small part in people seeing Jesus. I don't have to be something I'm not. That's not easy to do. That's way harder to do. But Elijah was uniquely called for this. And he knew from the time he steps into this king that this is going to be a long, drawn-out thing, and it's going to be his life. This calling to be this prophet that goes in, and man, he has some fun with it. By the way, Elijah's where we get trash talking. I don't know if you knew that or not. But, you know, our athletes don't have much on Elijah when it comes to the ability to trash talk. I mean, we're going to have some fun with this. And I have no idea how we're going to relate it to us at this point in time. None. No clue. But we'll figure it out. But he's called to this. You're called to what you do. Some of you go to work every single day. And it's a grind. It's a grind. Some of you have a set schedule. It's a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but it's a grind while you're there, and you know when you're off. Some of you have no idea. You're your own boss, and things can be really busy or not that busy, and you're never really sure. And when you're called into duty, you might be working for a month straight with no days off. Or you might be raising kids, which is a whole other thing. And you're in that time of life. Regardless of what your passions and your callings are, that's your passion and your calling when you have kids. And they're in the house. And by the way, the stress does not go away. I hate to discourage you. It's just different. It's like all the stress, only they're outside of the four walls of your house, you know? But it's being a parent's a unique and it can be extremely stressful and difficult and hard and especially physically when they're young or they're going through phases and they're starting to try to figure things out and they require your constant attention. That can be draining. So whatever your calling is right now, I want you to think of that. That's in this story, that's you right now. What's your calling? Because I want you to notice something. I think this is amazing. I want to talk about this just for a minute, then we'll go into communion, and hopefully it'll give us something to ponder. Look at this. What God directs him to do. Right when he's getting into the midst of this, he goes and makes his proclamation. There's a big fight coming. There's going to be a lot of stress, a lot of stuff happening. But look what God tells him to do. He doesn't say, I want you to go in there and just be ever present and do all this. Look what he says. Then the word of the Lord came to Elijah, leave here, turn eastward, and hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. That's back in Gilead. Did you notice in verse 1 where he's from? Gilead. It's his place. Go there, hide in the Kerith ravine, east of the Jordan. You will drink from the brook, and I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. Guys, we live in this culture, and there's different styles of culture for sure around the world. There's honor, shame, and all that stuff. We live in a very results-driven culture. We live in a very this culture that is a meritocracy, and our ability to work and get and do are highly valued, and there's this mindset that can get in that there's almost honor in working yourself to death. But notice what God does right here. And it's not that he's not going to work himself nearly to death. It's that before he goes, he needs some time in a place where he's getting fed, not feeding and producing. Look what it says. It says, I don't know about you, this sounds like heaven to me. This sounds like heaven to me. And I'm a late bloomer when it comes to camping. I'm a late bloomer when it comes to camping. But I found out something when I went camping, like the first time I went camping. I found out something. I found out it's a place I can rest, and I don't have to do anything other than just be. You know? It's kind of like a hiding place. It's my hiding place. And that sounds a lot like that from him. God says, go back to your place. You know that valley, that ravine that you love to be at. And it sounds amazing. You're in a ravine. I looked at pictures where they think this looks a lot like Central Oregon. There's a river, the river Jabbok or whatever, and brooks and everything winding off of this thing. It's just beautiful in this beautiful valley. And he goes, get in this ravine. I don't know if he could pull his trailer down there or not, if he needed four-wheel drive, but go down there, drink from the brook. How good does that sound? Just sit there and the pure water. I like going down near the Metolius, and there's 100 different places to do that. And I just like sitting in that water and then turning blue and then getting out. But you know, just drink from that brook. And here's what he says: I have directed the ravens to supply you with food there. We have this thing in church that we talk about. Church has turned into this consumer-driven thing, right? And being a consumer has turned into being a bad thing. And it certainly can be. If you're in a church where the church is just chasing the latest trends to get people in the door, you know, that's no good. That's no good. But man, you guys produce so much. So much of your week, so much of your life is spent producing and doing and giving and pouring out yourselves to others through your job, at home, with your kids, with your family, and doing all these things and output. If we don't consume anything, we're going to shrivel up and die doing that. I was talking to the teachers. I got asked a few years ago, Never got asked again. But I got asked a few years ago to talk to the teachers at Morning Star before the year started. And I told the teachers there, I said, my advice would be to find a church where you can get recharged in. Find a church you can get recharged in. And my other pieces of advice is tell the pastor no. Tell him no. You teach all week. You don't need to teach on Sunday. You need your batteries recharged. Because you're giving and you're trying to be creative and you're trying to be unique and you're trying to get these kids to learn. And then you come to church and I do it too. Don't say no to me, but if you go to a different church, don't be afraid. But the truth is, you pour out and you pour out and you pour out and you come here and then somebody says, hey, you're a teacher? Oh, man. And it's like, oh, we got a teacher. Because they know what they're doing. They're not afraid of kids. And a lot of us are afraid of kids. And they can go down. But sometimes you just need to say, no. I need to take some in because I'm pouring out all the time. My question to you is not only what is your calling, but where's your hiding spot? Where's your hiding spot? What I mean by that is, where is the place where you can get and just be? And the sustenance that you get is not something that you're providing for yourself. It's God giving it to you. Now listen, I get that not everybody can just say, well, I need that. I want to go off for a month and just be in the woods. I get that 99% of us could never do that. But where's the place in your own home that's that place? What's the activity that you can do? I know, it's funny. It's been a little hectic around here. It's been a little hectic around here the last little bit. And that happens when you're in, and that happens to everybody. You have busy times, not busy times. And joy has been really, it's been hectic. I can relax in the midst of a lot of things, but I know exactly what my wife needs when that happens. I know exactly where that place is. I know exactly where it is. It's in a kayak. 100%, right? It's in a kayak. On a lake, not in a river. Kayak, book, no husband. Perfect place for her. So we'll go kayaking together, and that's the last time I see her till we get back to the dock. She just takes off somewhere. I don't even know. It's a little blue speck out there, and she's out there reading a book and just in heaven. But she pours out and pours out and pours out and pours out and pours out. And you guys know she doesn't say no very often. And really, in nature of what she does, she can't really say no very often. But once in a while, you got to get your batteries recharged, or you're not going to make it. You're not going to be helpful to anybody. And that's what you see it all the way back with Elijah. Go, hide. I'll take care of you for a bit, because you're going to need to be fully you to do what I'm calling you to do. They say that when you take care of yourself in a way, when you find that peace, when you're able to just be and you're able to get your batteries recharged and get the rest, the mental rest, not just sleep, but that's a big part of it, but the mental rest that you can get, they say your productivity goes up exponentially. Your relationships get better. Your brain activity is increased. Your physicality is better. Everything functions better when you're able to do that. And that's a principle we see all through Scripture. Is this idea, yeah, we're all called to busy things and it gets hard, and sometimes you just have to keep going, and sometimes you can't get to the lake in the kayak, sometimes you can't do that, but where is your hiding place? Where's the spot you can get where you can get your batteries recharged, even in the middle of family running around, even in the middle of work in the everyday, even in the middle of all that? We need to find that place where we can sit and get fed. I love to exercise. I'm kidding, I don't. I hate it. But I'm always glad I did it. At least that's what I think I remember from when I used to do it. But I like it. And you always feel good when you do it. Sometimes it's hard to go, but you always feel good. But if you only exercise and you only put out effort, then you never take anything in, it doesn't work. You lose your energy, you lose your appetite, you could even lose your life doing that. It's not any different spiritually. It's not any different mentally. God comes up and He says, hey, I want you to go out here. And maybe Elijah's like, but I'm in the middle of this, but this is important. Wait just a second. This is more important right now. Let me take care of you, then go do. Right? Maybe it's just a time that you can just get up and take a walk around the neighborhood when nobody else is there. Maybe it's a time when you just find some spot, or you can just read a book just for fun and just be, or you can sit out on the back patio with your fire pit or whatever and just enjoy just existing. My favorite spot. I know where the spot is. I'm not going to tell you because I can't hardly get it anyway. But my favorite spot, there's this little creek that runs by this camp spot. I put my chair, it's shallow, it's freezing cold water, but it's a hot, hot day. That's the best. No shirt on. Sun's out, guns out. You know what I'm saying? Sitting in this water, it's about that deep. Got my chair in it. It's trickling by. Flowers are blooming. Trees are there. Birds are singing. This one little like bird, every single time he like dives through the water and plays, and it's just like I got I'm staying hydrated, and just in heaven, just sitting there being, sun beaming down, feet in the water. As soon as they get cold, I pop them up on a rock. As soon as they get hot, I pop back down in the water. And just hours, just being. And I never feel better than coming off of that. I can't do it every day. I can't do it all the time, but I think it's so important that we take the time when we know we need it to get to the place, get to our Kerith ravine and sit by our brook that babbles by and allow God to feed us. Then we come back into the reality of it all, right? Look at Jesus when He took His disciples up on the Mount of Transfiguration. They go up there, and it's an amazing scene. Jesus is transfigured. You see Moses and Elijah, and I still have no idea, short of "Hello, my name is" stickers, I have no idea how they knew who those two were. You know, it's like they didn't have a picture Bible back then, I'm pretty sure. But yet Moses and Elijah are there, and they're talking, and all of a sudden Peter's like, let's build 3 tabernacles here. And of course that was the absolute wrong thing to say. Then the cloud comes over, God speaks out of the cloud, this is my son, listen to him. They look back up, it's just Jesus. Peter's idea though was, let's stay here. Let's stay here. But Jesus says, no. The next thing they do is they go right back down off the mountaintop into the valley and get dirty with people that need Jesus. Right? When we have these mountaintop experiences, or these maybe valley experiences with the ravine here, but when we get that rest, when we get that time, that's we don't exist there forever. It's not, that's not the end of the story, but it's a big part of the story. You know? The story wouldn't be the story without this part. We can't just keep going and going and going and going and going. Church is a place where, yes, you can volunteer. We love that. We love when people do that. And we love when people work in the nursery and downstairs and on the soundboard and all that. But we try not to overwork you. But at the same time, this should be one of those places where you can just be. You can just be. That's why I enjoy going to certain conferences and things. Church, this part of life isn't all that relaxing for me. Sundays aren't exactly like, whee, you know. I don't really enjoy worship when I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I don't really, I'm thinking about this or that, or how's that sound? What's that look like? What am I going to say about this point? This point's going to be really hard to convey, and you're trying to work through all of that. But man, I'll tell you what, when you do get away and to a place at a conference or somewhere where it's just that intimate setting where someone is talking to you and you're able to just to sit back and forth and discuss just God and what's going on, and it's just, there's no pressure to do anything. Cold glass of water. But I can't live at the conference. Then it's time to come back and use that recharge to fall back in our calling. Right? We can't live constantly on vacation, but man, we can use those times. We can use those moments. We can't stay there, but they're there for us so that we can keep going in our calling. Where is yours? The other thing, do you have one? Maybe I'm talking to a younger crowd than you guys are young. Don't get me wrong. Super young. Probably my age or younger. Listen to me right now. Nobody cares what you're eating for dinner. Nobody. You don't need to put it on anything. You don't need to show anybody on Instagram or Facebook or anything else. Nobody cares. I started doing this a few years ago, and it's been huge for me because I can fall into the same traps. I stopped taking pictures at events, except maybe like just one or two that I think would be good. But I stopped taking pictures at events or videoing things because I wanted to experience it. You know what I mean? Another thing that's been super helpful for me, to find a little bit of rest. Because even when we're resting, if we're worried about getting that dopamine hit, about someone liking the fact that I'm relaxing at a beach, or I'm relaxing camping, or I'm relaxing, that's still work. You're not resting. You're not getting fed. You're still trying to feed. Listen, another challenge. How am I going to say this? Joy's like, when I say that, she's always nervous, but it's not anything like that. Go out to eat with people more. Hang out with people more. I'll put it that way. That's a better way to put it. Hang out with people more. Hang out with friends more. And here's the thing. When you do it, no phones. Leave it at home. You know how hard it is to leave your phone at home? Leave it. And go and be present in those conversations. Yeah. Leave it. Started doing that. Joy and I have date night every Thursday night. You ever seen these couples date night when you're looking over and they're both just on their phones? And I don't have to, love you, honey, you look great tonight. Love you too. Yeah. It's like, tell her. It's like on social media. I'm just wriggling right now. This is going to be a long sermon. Here's the thing. These couples that are on that on Facebook or whatever, and they say Joy's writing it, and she says, Trevor, I love you so much. Thank you for the 30 years or whatever, blah, 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 and you're just such the best husband ever, blah, 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 blah. It's like, I'm right here. Nobody else cares. Nobody. I promise you I don't. But it's like, let's put the phones down and start communicating and just being with each other. There's so much life to be gained by being present with somebody else in a conversation. There's so much church to be had over coffee and being there. I get way more, and I'm not trying to talk myself out of a job, but I get way more personally out of 15 or 20 minutes with someone over coffee than I ever get from someone talking at me. Yeah. All right. That is the best illustration ever right there. Thank you, whoever did that. I'm not pointing any fingers, but thank you, Jesus. That was good. But anyway, we'll leave it there. That's probably my way of needing to get out of here too. But we need rest, don't we? Look what God does. God gave him direction, then God provides, doesn't he? God may be telling us you need to rest more, you need to find some rest. You need to find a place of peace. You need to get out of the chaos. You need to put your phone up. You need to turn the TV off. You need to just kind of get where you need to be and just Or you need to tell somebody about it. Get your best friend over and just share a beverage and talk about good times or whatever that recharges your soul so you can get back into your calling head first with passion and with power. Because God's going to provide. So Elijah, did what the Lord had told him. He went to his place of rest. Maybe, just maybe, through, and I'm not trying to say that because I said it, God's telling you to do it, but maybe there's a nudge there because of that. That you need to maybe pause for a minute in life and find a place to get fed and allow the Lord to provide for you as He is so lovingly willing to do. He went to the Kerith ravine east of the Jordan and stayed there. The ravens brought him bread and meat in the morning and bread and meat in the evening, and he drank from the brook. There were some animals getting terrorized by some ravens during this time. But he took care of them, didn't he? Listen, I promise you, if you take a little break, if you need to sit down and have some me time or whatever it is, or have some time to put your phone down, whatever emergency comes up, you can handle later. I promise. I promise. Nothing you can do about it anyway. You don't need to know right when it happens. I promise if you take the vacation time allotted to you at work to your full advantage, the place isn't going to fall apart. Your productivity will probably go up. Your calling you'll have more passion for it. You'll have more drive for it because God has fed you what you need. And I'm not great at articulating these things, but think again, what's your calling? Where's your place of rest? Where's your place of refuge where you put everything down and you say, God, I need you and what you're providing. Dear Heavenly Father, God, I know that in this room full of extremely capable, driven, amazing people that exist in this time of social media and in this time of constant barrage of news and information and the whole world's at our fingertips, God, that a lot of us are not getting the fed the way we need to get fed because we're not stopping long enough to eat. I know that. And so, God, I ask that you would help us to find our ravine, find our place, find our spot where we can just sit, we can listen to you, we can observe what you're doing, and we can just feast at your table so we can get the nutrition spiritually and physically and mentally that we need to go out and pursue what you've created us to do with all our hearts, soul, mind, and strength. God, be with us. Feed us. Help us to slow down so we can get fed.